A new report has dropped that forces the Toronto Raptors into some moves, and they have to make them fast, as there was a clear hole on this roster entering the season before any injuries happened. And even though there have been some positive developments, specifically with Colin Murray-Boyles, to run Darko Rajakovic's schemes, they have to have a rim-protecting center. It's not going to work otherwise, because this Raptors team is guarding people aggressively out there around the three-point line, and it's working in the sense it's creating deflections and it's pestering out there the ball handlers, but that type of defensive scheme leads to a lot of straight line drives, and you need a rim-protecting center in order to have a backline of defense in order for this aggressive defensive scheme to work. And that position needs to be, filled with a lot of depth at that center spot. And of course, Jakob Poeltl, I'm a believer in him. And before we dive into this, I want to say I respect the heck out of Jakob Poeltl. There's a lot of trash getting thrown his way, and he has been playing bad. Objectively, he is out there on the court, and he is a negative to this team right now. But as this report, I'll bring it up here, indicates, Jakob Poeltl is playing with an injury. Early in the fourth quarter, he left just playing 24 minutes. Again, the statistics were horrible. He's playing through a sore back, and it was confirmed that he is done with lower back tightness. But Jakob Poeltl hasn't decided to say, I'm going to sit out. He understands how important he is to this squad. He understands that without him out there on the lineup, it's really tough for the Raptors to get wins, especially losing Rajaković. They do not have that center depth. And this is not a knock on Colin Murray-Boyles saying, he was bad, bad one game and this, that, whatever. Colin Murray-Boyles is actually phenomenal. I'll talk about him in this video, but Colin Murray-Boyles is an extremely small ball 5 if you want to play him at the position. He is better apt, he's better suited out there at the forward position, the small forward or power forward spot that can occasionally switch up and guard the bigger players. And same with Sandro Mamukelashvili, who is a guy that I'm a big fan of his performances and stuff. I view him as more of a 4, especially on the defensive end. So the Raptors right now are essentially completely relying on Jakob Poeltl being the only true center out here on this roster. And then if you're running a bunch of schemes, if you're running a bunch of strategies that rely on, having these straight line drives actually happen, that's putting a lot on Jakob Poeltl, and he's playing through injuries right now. So I respect Jakob Poeltl's toughness. I respect everything that he's doing. But objectively, with his injuries, he is a negative for this squad, and we're seeing it in the win-loss column. The Toronto Raptors are 1-3 right now, so the season's not over by any stretch of the imagination. Some people are already rounding out the tanks and that stuff, and I am still a big believer in this group, a big believer in this roster, and we'll talk about some of the positives and negatives here. But one thing that Bobby Webster has to address, he has to fix, is this lack of depth at the center position. Of course, Rajaković, losing him at the start of this year is a big L for this team in terms of, I thought he was actually going to have an impact for this group. Of course, uncontrollable circumstance for the Raptors. Second time it's happened for this group, which is extremely unfortunate, but that has led to Bobby Webster being, in his first real tough position as the lead of this front office to quickly round up someone that can protect the rim, especially if Jakob Poeltl is out. And essentially with this report saying that Jakob Poeltl is currently dealing with this, he's leaving games, he's all that stuff, the Raptors are going to have to act fast in order to fix what they have going right now at the center position. Because it wasn't just the game last night against Victor Wembanyama. Against Giannis Antetokounmpo, 31 points, 20 rebounds, 11 of 14 shooting from the field. Anthony Davis on a desperate Dallas Mavericks team, 25 points, 10 rebounds, 11 of 14 from the field. Victor Wembanyama, 24 points, 15 rebounds, and 7 of 8 from the field. These three guys combined for 80 and just 7 missed shots against Toronto. The big men have been having their way against this Toronto Raptors team, and they need to sort it out. They need to figure it out, because if you're playing against these teams, we didn't even have a shot against the San Antonio Spurs. We didn't even have a chance. And if you look at the rebounding discrepancy, if you look at everything that's going on there, the Raptors ended up having less than half the rebounds that the San Antonio Spurs had in this game. 20 rebounds to 44 for the Spurs. Of course, some missed shots on top of it, but that's because the Spurs also shot 58% from the field. they're driving in, and then they could kick it out to the Champagnes of the world, kick it out to all those three-point shooters that they have on this team. I mean, you take a look at this group. Harrison Barnes killed us from behind the three-point line. Keldon Johnson killed us from behind the three-point line. They have so many dudes that, it's not like the craziest, most talented roster, but if you can't stop anyone with those drives, you can't stop anyone in the paint, even though Colmer Bills, I thought, played his absolute tail off trying to guard someone that's like a foot taller than him in these games, but you're just not going to be able to make it work. You're not going to be able to make it happen. And defensively is where the issues are right now. And I'm talking about this as well. And folks, I want to address this as well. Still at this point, in the videos, over 53% of our viewers are not subscribed to the channel. So if you're enjoying all the analysis out here on this Toronto Raptors team, make sure you hit the subscribe button as my camera freezes. And we are back. If you want to get me a better camera out there or help me, support me, get a better camera, you can hit that subscribe button down below. Most people in the stream can usually see my camera go in and out, but that is what it is. All right, the Toronto Raptors, we have seen this before, and Bobby Webster needs to be able to address this out there into the future because we've had elite defenders out there on this group, most notably that team with Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, those types of players there were forced to play center positions. They're out there guarding the Joel Embiids of the world at the time, and those types of players, and it led to this team not being maximized. You trade away OG Anunoby, he's in New York, and he's making conference finals teams. Pascal Siakam is traded to the Pacers, and he's making the NBA finals because there has long been an imbalance out there in this Raptors team, and specifically the center spot. Of course, bringing in Jakob Poeltl has helped that, but an unhealthy Jakob Poeltl, relying on one guy to be your only sole option that has a history with injuries, being your sole option out there at that 5 spot, it's not sustainable. It's not reliable for an 82-game season. And you also lose an elite wing forward defender in Colin Murray-Boyles by forcing him to guard the Victor Wembanyama's of the world, right? If CMB is out there guarding these types of guys, the Jokic's, the tonight or tomorrow night against Şengün, those types of centers, then he is going to be off someone out there on the wing where he could exclusively clamp them up. So the Raptors have to address this. They are forced into some moves with this problem because, again, you're not maximizing your guys. And CMB had a brutal start to his debut in his NBA career, but in the most recent game against San Antonio Spurs, put in 19 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, 3 steals, 1 block, and was absolutely fearless going up against Victor Wembanyama and was fairly competent shooting that 3-point ball. Of course, I don't expect him to be, a 60% 3-point shooter over the course of the season, going 3 for 5 from the 3-point line, but he was outstanding in this game and very, very positive. And I want to get to this as well because, again, people look at the standings and be like, okay, the Raptors, they're done. We've seen this recipe before, 1-3 out there on the season. There have been a ton of positives over the course of this year, right? And RJ Barrett's another name that, again, I've been outspoken. I have been stating to people we need to keep him. He's a crucial piece. He's a crucial factor to this group. He's been our best player of the season, most consistent, best player. And 9 of 18 shooting from the field in this game, 25 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, and I am just a big fan of what RJ Barrett has been doing, and he's been doing it for the past couple seasons. He's been a most reliable guy. Of course, you have your ups and downs with Scottie Barnes. Brandon Ingram hasn't gotten the ball enough out there in these situations, and the guy that everyone, if you're talking about moves, people are going to be talking about is Immanuel Quickley, and he has, without a doubt, been disappointing. There's no arguing the fact that he has been up to scuff, up to par with what we're looking at. And you have 2 starters right now, Immanuel Quickley averaging 15, 5, and 7. You might look at that and be like, oh, that's not horrible, but you see the efficiency, 40% from the field and 18% out there from behind the 3-point line, and a lot of his buckets just don't feel that impactful. He's not, even Jamal Shead's facilitating feels like it's having more impact on this game, and he has been getting cooked by the Cole Anthonys and the D'Angelo Russells of the world at the point guard spot. And, you have another guy that's, a crucial piece to your squad. Again, we talked about it. He's injured right now, but 6.5 points per game and 5 rebounds for Jakob Poeltl in 23 minutes of action from 2 guys that are making a lot of money for your group. That's not going to cut it. You're not going to win too many games there at this point. So a lot of people say, oh, trade IQ. His contract won't allow, especially with the level of production he's been putting up. So he has to figure it out. We invested a lot in him. I know the idea of Immanuel Quickley is phenomenal and exactly what this team needs, but he has to be able to do it night in, night out. So that's the thing with IQ there. And another factor in terms of people saying moves have to happen Jacoby Walter and Gradey Dick are two guys that are just being underutilized right now, solely off the fact that this team is constructed in a very weird way. And you can't take minutes away from RJ Barrett, but Gradey Dick, 8 minutes in this one. 5 of them were only in real time. The last 3 were out there in garbage time. And, Jacoby Walter, 10 minutes in this one, 1 and 2 from the field. It just sucks that these guys haven't been getting the opportunities that they deserve to develop with. So, it is what it is. There's going to have to be something happening, and it's going to have to happen soon because the Raptors are... It's not sustainable for an 82-game season to just run 2 undersized centers. We've seen it done before with a very talented roster. It didn't work. It led to injuries. It led to a complete disaster, and it can't happen again. So let me know what you guys think. You guys are the best. I'm signing out. Cheers.